Hey everybody, my ruler 31 back here for FSI DFS. Got a really big 13 game slate here for Tuesday, June 21st, the longest day of the year. Happy summer solstice. One thing I just want to point out to everybody, if you haven't noticed, is if on DraftKings, if you go to where their promotions are, they're actually running smaller contests where if you play, I think 3 days in a row, then you get entered into like larger contests. But they're pretty nice because there's like a $2.22 mini max day, and each day recently too, they've had like penny contests around Major League Baseball. Now, the grand prize for the penny contest is $20. So I know that's laughable, and you're like, Mega, why would I want to play that? Well, if you're playing for achievements, especially for like home runs or for like pitching, then pretty much what I'm doing is I'm throwing lines in there probably with like the two best pitchers that I think have the highest strikeouts, or potentially I don't remember if they count wins or not, but I know DK counts strikeouts as a prop for achievements. So the two highest strikeout pitchers in there, there are a couple of guys that you think potentially could hit some home runs, and then just put some scrubs in. If you lose the $1.50 for the 150 max at 1 cent, no big deal. I'm sure you'll make it out someplace else. But a whole week's worth of those, if you're getting 150 lineups with like two like 10K guy or 10 strikeout guys or 20 strikeout guys, that's going to add up, and it's going to be a lot. It might kick you up a couple levels there. So just something I just want to throw out there if you didn't notice it, and what my strategy is for that. And I'm hoping DK does the each team hits a home run contest. That usually comes up around July. So if I see that, or if one of you see that, please let me know, because I love like stacking that in like 5-10 cent games, whatever I can. And the cheapest thing, the DK will let you play and just stack every batter from every team until you get that home run and then cross it off. And I love to see how fast I can get that achievement done. But anyways, back to baseball. Last night was kind of weird. I did have bunch of lineups where I went like McClanahan Cole and McClanahan because they had like $1 mini max there. So I just pretty much played every team. And with some of the cheaper stacks, I was able to get McClanahan Cole and Burns, McClanahan, Burns, Cole. And it seemed like the double pay up for pitcher worked out last night. My main cash lineup, it did okay. Boston didn't do great, but it did have Cruz and Pittsburgh in there, rookie. Minimum price, put up 20 DK points there. Duran had a good night, and it seems like Kansas City was the answer there. And it wasn't for stolen bases. Actually, it hit some home runs off of Syndergaard there, and that's pretty much what took down most tournaments. So big slate today. Let's get into it. I'll try to fly through game by game, and then as you can see on the board here, I've tried to rank every single team. Some of the pitchers had to double up because they ran out of squares, but we will get you on your way here. So no weather concerns, hot temperatures in some areas, winds blowing out. Like I said, summer solstice is starting to be that time of year where the ball's flying better in all these parks. So Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles, Fetty and Jordan Lyles. Fetty, I think, is the cheap punt on the slate here against Baltimore. Like I said, weather's a little concerning. It's 83 degrees there, which isn't like 90. Wind blowing out just a little bit, but they did it's blown out towards the walls if they move back, so that should help. Lyles, not super interested in here. Washington, I think, does make a decent cheap stack. I think Soto is a great one-off play here, and the Orioles, another cheap one if you want. Next up, speaking of cheap games, Chicago Cubs and Pittsburgh Pirates. 90 degrees here, wind blowing out 10 miles per hour. You have Matt Swarmer and Rosny Contreras. Swarmer at 83, not interested in, way too expensive here. And the Pirates actually have been doing good, and actually they have a 4.62 total, and they're my favorite cheap stack on the slate. And I think I'm actually going to mix them in with my main stack and cash. So out on Swarmer. Contreras, I think, is going to be very chalky, and I think he's going to be one of the highest owned SP2s on the slate today. Cubs, not interested in, maybe is like another cheap stack or a lever stack if Contreras is popular. Detroit and Boston, we have Brew Brisky and Rich Hill. Brisky is definitely a fade, kind of reverse splits guy. So definitely the righties on Boston. One of the things is I did see that Jeter might be called up and play a little bit here. So if he's in the lineup, he's like 2K, should be shortstop eligible there. So he's did really well in spring training. He's a talented young guy that Boston has. That eventually, I think, as some of these stars age, will take over if he doesn't get like ruled 5 and then end up on like another team someplace where they do have a opportunity for him up in the Major League Baseball. Rich Hill on the other side, I actually like him against the Tigers. Tigers really are like pretty much low in a lot of offensive categories, not much power and stuff. Like they have flashes of brilliance, but I think Hill, even though he's getting over the hill, is enough to at 7-2 to be able to neutralize them and to pay off value. So he's my second favorite cheaper range pitcher today. Red Sox, I think, would make the top stack against Brewski. I think he's the second worst pitcher on the slate, but I think just with the talent of their offense here, I really like them probably the best. Yankees and the Rays, Cortez against Fleming. Cortez, I think, is the most expensive pitcher, and for good reason. Tampa Bay still has 2 of their big bats out of the lineup here. They might have lost Kiermaier also. I mean, he would have been lefty on lefty, so I don't think it really would matter that much. So pretty watered down lineup here. I think there's some strikeouts here. It's a pitcher's park. It sets up really well. So definitely love Cortez here, and I think he's going to be SP1. Not because I'm a Yankees fan, just because I think he's the one that we need to play tonight, because you do have Gaussman and Cisse up there too in the kind of close to the price range, but they're playing each other, and it's a tough matchup. So I think matchup wise, Cortez wins here. Fleming on the other side, it's a lefty against the Yankees, which is super dangerous. I know McClanahan did decent yesterday, but he's a very talented elite pitcher. Fleming is not. So he's on the fade list here. Yankees, I think, are my second favorite stack here, especially right-handed power against him. I know Tampa Bay bullpen is decent, and McClanahan went pretty deep last night, so they didn't have to use much of them. So that might neutralize them later in the game. So that's why the Yankees are my top stack. But I think if they put up enough runs, as we've always said, if a team destroys a starting pitcher and the game's out of reach, they're not going to play the good bullpen arms. They're going to try to save them for the next games in the series. Like, why throw your really good guys out there if the game's not, in reach still? So that might be a factor too. Tampa Bay, no interest in their bats. They really don't have anything to put up against a very strong left-handed pitcher. San Francisco and the Atlanta Braves, DeScalfani coming back from injury list. Spencer Strider. Strider's been really good recently. I know San Francisco is a tough matchup. They can mix and match him pretty well, throw a ton of lefties at him, but I'm okay playing him. I think that he's definitely a decent one in the mid-range. Here, DeScalfani, no interest in whatsoever. I don't think he's going to go very deep in the game, and the Braves are decent. 94 degrees, wind blowing out a little bit, 6 miles per hour. So Atlanta would be my third favorite stack on the night here. And San Francisco, I think, is a leverage stack if people are going to play Strider. They have a 4.25 total. So the hard thing with San Francisco is they've turned it such a more of a tournament thing than a cash thing, because with the mixing and matching and having so many different good lefty and right-handed bats, then if like a lefty comes in the bullpen, then people get pinch in for, and you don't get the full 3 or 4 at bats from the team some nights. Cleveland Guardians and the Minnesota Twins. You have Seaval against Joe Ryan. It's going to be 87 degrees here, wind blowing out 16 miles per hour, so very good hitting conditions in Minnesota. Seaval, not interested in, and Ryan's just too expensive at 8.8 for this matchup here. It all depends, though, too, because if Reyes and Jose Ramirez are out, then I think I like Ryan a little bit more. That's why he's on the top in the no interest. He might be able to be considered in the mid-range, maybe in a GPP. So keep him potentially in your player pool there. I'm not saying he's a fade. Savelle, I don't like him there. Cleveland, 150 max just because of the good hitting conditions there. Minnesota, I think, would be one of the top GPP stacks on the night too. just with the hitting conditions. So just depending on who's back in their lineup there. I wish they were up against a lefty here, but I still think that you can mix in Buxton and Correa. So I think Kepler's a great play. Areza leading off there. So it's just they're GPP because it's just kind of hard to stack them with what we have. Next up, we have Philadelphia and Texas. Kyle Gibson, Martin Perez, both decent pitchers, but I don't think I really want to play either one of them on this slate here. Perez at 9.6 is pretty expensive, especially, against a decent Philly team. I know Harper's day-to-day again. I don't know if it's his wrist or elbow or another injury. So, I mean, if he's out of the lineup and it looks like it's a watered-down Philly lineup, then I think that puts Perez in play. So I think Perez and Ryan, you just got to keep an eye on what the lineups come out against them. Gibson on the other side here, not interested in. And even like with these teams for batting, just see what the lineups are, but the pitching's decent. You have to see what comes out. I have them at the top of the no interest one. You can maybe slide them underneath like Cleveland in the 150 max one. So I'm not saying they're complete fades. I'm just saying in this slate, I'm just not really looking at them as options tonight. Now we have a really good pitching matchup here, which the 8.5 total seems pretty high with the quality of these pitchers. You have Kevin Gaussman and Dylan Cease. I know both of them have struggled recently, and both of them are here against decent offenses. And Tim Anderson's back in the lineup, and Berger. So Chicago's getting stronger, but they're pretty much right-handed, and Gaussman's good against right-handed. So I think that he'd probably be the second favorite pitcher on the slate for the high level, but more of a GPP play than in cash. And if you want to pivot off Cortez, if he's very chalky, I completely understand it. CC on the other side, the same thing. He's pretty decent against righties, and most of the Blue Jays power is against righties. So I think he'd fall third in line here, and both of the stacks would be leverage stacks in GPP because they're up against good pitchers. So just stack the normal guys. I wouldn't take one-offs here at all. It's stack or nothing. And leverage stacks and GPPs. And I think, if they do catch the pitcher on a bad night, even though they don't have the split, then I think you could win some money there. Next up, we have St. Louis and the Milwaukee Brewers. We have Jack Flaherty and Chichi Gonzalez. Chichi Gonzalez is probably one of the worst pitchers in Major League Baseball. I don't know why the Brewers, who is potentially a playoff team, potentially a World Series team, would use him. There's probably so many other people out there that they could potentially pick, but I don't know. And Flaherty on the other side at 7.7 is still coming back from an injury, I believe. I'm not interested in him against a decent Milwaukee team. So St. Louis, I think, is my fourth favorite stack here. You have definitely Boston, and that's a really bad pitcher. You have the Yankees against the lefty. You have Atlanta in hot temperatures, and then St. Louis would probably fall in here, even though Gonzalez is a righty. He's kind of a reverse splits guy, so you can pretty much throw anybody at him. I think Gorman ended up getting injured yesterday, so he might not be in the lineup. He might be heading towards the IL. So that might mean like Donovan gets to move up to like the second spot, and you might have some other value plays in here for St. Louis, making the stack even better. Milwaukee on the other side, I think in 150 max, I'm good with that, especially like the lefties against Flaherty. He's not a horrible pitcher. Cardinals have a decent bullpen, so somebody that I have interest in on the slate, but not high interest in. Let's just put it that way. New York Mets and Houston. Again, you have two okay pitchers here. I don't play pitchers against Houston because they don't walk and they don't strike out much, and they have a good offense. Urquidy, same thing. You pretty much have matched up the two offenses here that don't walk, that are very patient at the plate, that don't have high K rates. So pitchers don't make sense here. The pitchers are decent enough that I'm not super interested in either stack. I think Houston you can do a GPP because Williams has had control issues at points, and the Mets, I think, in 150 max against Urquidy because, again, he hasn't been anything special. Next up, we have Kansas City and Los Angeles Angels. We have Heasley and Dietmers. Both pitchers are in 6K range, and both of them are pretty bad. They're fades for me. I'm not interested in either one. Kansas City, I think you can go back to the well here in GPPs against Dittmer, especially a lefty like the righties. Perez makes a really good play. If you can't afford him, Melendez, or play him in outfield. So even Benintendi in here, I think you could still play lefty in your stack and be fine. So have some interest in Kansas City. They're my third favorite GPP stack, and then LA I think is up there with Minnesota as my second favorite one. Might be a little bit more interested with them just because they stack a little bit better, and just can take pretty much whoever you want here. Hensley's just been neutral splits, bad against both sides. 76 degrees, so it's a little warmer in LA at night than it is sometimes, and a little bit of wind blowing out. So they have a 5.15 total. So I think that they make a really good stack to look at in GPP, or maybe like a fifth cash stack there. Seattle and Oakland, Marco Gonzalez and Caprillion. Caprillion is just really deteriorated as a pitcher, not interested there. Marco Gonzalez could be a very chalky option for SP2. I think it's maybe between him and Contreras, mixing in a little bit of Hill. Unless somebody pays off and they go like Cortez Manea, but there is enough value on the slate, especially with Pittsburgh in a great spot to do that too. So Gonzalez, I did have some interest in him in the cheap range. I'm not sure that either one of these teams I really want to play. Maybe Seattle on 150 max, probably has been just horrible. And then I'm not interested in the Oakland bats too much here, unless you want to play him as a leverage stack if you think Gonzalez has a ton of ownership. So kind of moving on from that game at Arizona and San Diego, ending the night. Gallen's been decent. The Padres are without Manny Machado now. They're still without Tatis, so not as powerful as a lineup. So they do have some decent lefties here, especially Cronenworth, who's like 6K. I don't get that. I know he had a home run last night, but it just seems overpriced. I know he's pretty much going to have to carry the team now, but he's a good baseball player. He's not an elite baseball player. Like if he's like Mike Trout, pricing is just crazy. So I don't know what's going on with the DK algorithm there. So Gallen, I think you can play in GPPs. I'm okay with that. Padres have a pretty low total. It's a decent pitcher's park. It's only like 71 degrees, so it's not going to be like 90 degrees out there in Northern California tonight. 3.65 total, so I like Allen there. Mane on the other side, I think I really like too. Is probably my favorite medium range guy. I think he's going to be pretty popular, and people might pay down from Cortez and go him as their SP1, which I completely get at 9K. It's not a bad decision there against an Arizona team that has some righties, but most of their power is more from the left-hand side that I like. I know Luplo can hit home runs and Christian Walker and stuff, but I think Manea has enough in him to be able to navigate through this lineup. They only have 3.35 total, so I think he's decent there. So let's look at some of the builds and get you on your way for your day. So like I said, I'm taking Cortez as my SP1, and then I'm probably going to take Contreras, but he can potentially get up to Manea. I'm going to stack Boston here, so definitely Devers, Duran if he's there leading off JD Martinez. I'm fine taking either side of the plate here against the pitcher that they're facing, and Brisky, reverse splits guy, but also like almost like a neutral split, just a bad pitcher. And Detroit bullpen's not any better. So JD, Duran, Devers, Xander, unless you want to put Cruz in your pit stack, you could put him in outfield also. So there's a way if you throw Story in there, you're almost up to Perez. If you play Contreras, if you drop down to another pitcher, you can get Perez in a catcher, which is like probably one of the best catcher plays there. If you want to pay down at catcher, you can get up to Manea, but then again, it all depends. Like if X-Spot's not playing and Jeters, and you can play him at shortstop or play Cruz at shortstop, and then throw another Red Sox in the Outfield there, Verdugo, whoever works for you there, and then maybe you can get up even more on pitcher, get Perez in there. So I like that build is, but primarily get as much Boston as you can, fill in with Pittsburgh guys that work in the stack. And if you can get up to Perez a catcher, it's fine. If not, then if you want to pay down and pay up at SP2, that makes sense too. FanDuel, same principle. It pretty much works with Cortez, and then you can pretty much get a full Boston stack and a full Pittsburgh stack in there, or take a one off the cheap just to make the stack work. But I would go 4 Boston and 3 Pittsburgh if you're taking the one off. Next up, we have the GPP build. So for your SP1, I'm looking, Gonzalez, I think, is the one that you want to start with, and then Hill, Manaea, Strider, whoever you can get up to. But I'm going to stack St. Louis and the Angels here. So Trout, Ohtani, and Ward in the outfield, and then take one of the cheaper St. Louis guys here to round out. Or if I take all 3 of them there, if you try to take all the high priced guys here, the St. Louis catcher might be 2K, then you might be able, Hill might be as high as you can get up for your SP2, but you have all the bats there. But if you want to take like a cheaper guy like Refrino there, and Donovan, I think you can then move down to shortstop there. You might have to punt with throwing like Perez in outfield if you want to try to pay up for one of the SP2s there. If you want to get some Manaea there, you might not be able to take a full 4 and 4 stack or 5 and 3 stack here. You might need to take a cheap punt, but that's what I'm pretty much playing with. I like I said, St. Louis against Chichi Gonzalez and the Angels are both in really, really good spots here. So mix and match them however you want to. But I think the priorities are you want Goldsmith, Arenado, Trout, and Ohtani, and Ward's pretty cheap too. So if you can't get both Trout and Ohtani and you want to go with Ward, I'm fine with that too. Or if one of them sits, that makes sense. For FanDuel GPP, if you want to get like the full 100% 4 and 4 stack of the good bats for St. Louis and the Angels, you probably have to play Fetty. It's not pretty with him, but I think against Baltimore that he can do enough to get whatever. Contreras, I think, is the preferred one there. So you might, again, have to play a cheap 2K guy in utility, and then you can maybe get like Edmonds at like shortstop or at second base there, and or you can pay down and you could do like Duffy at second base. You can get Renfroe at second base. So you can go cheap at second, you go cheap at the utility. You can go with a one-off and again take Cruz for Pittsburgh, who I still like at 2K on both sites. At shortstop or utility, just whatever works for you. But again, the priorities are going to be pretty much Goldsmith, Arenado, Trout, Ohtani. Ward's pretty reasonable to get in there too. So that's what we have for today. Thanks for watching. I know it's a little bit longer video, but we had a lot to cover. So if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Try to get back to you. And so we always say, check back around 6:30 in the evening or so, right before lock, to see if anything's like changed. We'll throw out some information if any pitchers got stretched or like weather issues pop up or anything like that. Some really, really good questions yesterday in the comments. So I appreciate those. You can hit me up at Megaruler31. If you follow me, I'll follow you back, and then you can DM me your questions. Again, can't prove like full lineups for you, but if you have questions on players or like a 2v2, like, do like these 2 guys to finish off my lineup better than these 2 guys or whatever, we try to help you out for that. And then if you want full coaching experience, go to the details of our video. FSI DFS, we're there. We have a Discord where we got we can help you out one-on-one with building your lineups and help you be successful. We've got a great community there, so all the information for that's in the details of the video. So if our videos help you, then please spread the word to your friends. Like our channel. We actually did hit the 3,500 subscribers. So thank you for all of you who did that. So when our videos are coming out. And we appreciate you guys watching us day in and day out. And all the relationships and people that I've met through this. It's been really great. So good luck in your contest tonight. You know how to get a hold of me, and we'll see you next time.